Hey everybody, I know I promised you guys some clay project videos while we were all at home, so I wanted to share my first project with you, which is the pinch pot project. I'm going to start with a half a pound ball of clay. So as you can see, it's pretty much like this size of my palm. If you have kids at home, grandkids, kids of your own that are in the house with you, they can do this project as well. It can be a lot of fun for them. I would just go with a smaller ball of clay, something that fits in the palm of their hand, depending on how old they are. I have two balls, and I'm gonna make two bowls that are gonna fit together and attach. So that way I can use them for like olives or nuts or something, for a party and stuff like that. So you just wanna start with a ball of clay, and you wanna take your thumb and you want to push it into the center of that ball. I use my long middle finger here, and as I push down, I can feel the depth between my thumb and my middle finger. I'm looking for about 1/4 of an inch. This is a little hard whenever you're learning. You might not know what a 1/4 inch feels like, but just go with it. You'll learn as you start to become more familiar with the clay. So once I get down to 1/4 of an inch, I just have this little thumb hole in the middle of my ball. From there, all I got to do is I've got to pinch it outward. And I got to keep it moving. If you notice, I keep it rotating. And as I'm doing that, that hole is going to get bigger because I'm slowly pinching around the exterior and the interior. So like whenever you see a potter on the wheel and they're pulling the clay up, it's the same idea. This really helps train your hands on how to control your pinching, because if you go too fast, the clay will crack. If you go too slow, or if you don't pinch hard enough, nothing happens. So you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. And you want consistency. Clay loves consistency. It wants to be the same thickness through and through as well as it can. If you notice all these little wrinkles and things that get into the clay, maybe they were already there, or maybe some of them start to pop up as you're pinching. You can take the time to use your thumb and smooth them out. They will continue to come back as you pinch. So you will have to take the time to stop and pinch it out and smooth it off and all that kind of stuff. So you just have to be patient. The other thing is as you're making the piece, you might notice that it starts to get kind of wobbly and it won't hold the shape that you want. That's when you might want to set your ball down and start on your other ball of clay, pinching down into the center, getting to that 1/4 inch depth, and then pinching that outward. So that way it gives the clay some time to set up whenever you're working on the other one. And you can kind of bounce back and forth between the two. Really learning how to use that multitasking tool that everybody always feels the need to call themselves. So you just kind of bounce back and forth and pinch out the clay until you get it to the thickness that you want. Now I know for some of you, you picked up your clay play survival kits. So if you get to a place where you get a project done and you want to drop it off on the porch or by the side gate, as many of you know where the side gate is to enter the studio, you can drop that off, and then that way it gets here to me before it gets too dry. So then we don't run the risk of it cracking or breaking. And I'm still doing bisque fires right now, so I'll be able to bisque fire it. And then I'm in the process of rebuilding a new glaze kiln. So we'll have a bigger and better glaze kiln when all of this comes to an end. Working with clay can be really meditative and fun for the family. Plus, it's really cool to have something that you made yourself. One thing that happens whenever people are working in clay is they tend to go too fast and the bowl starts to open up really wide. If that happens, it's really hard to take it back, so you might have to like wedge it back into a ball. Some of you might want that, you know, like maybe I would like my bowl to be a little bit wider. I'm gonna rotate this down just a tad so you can see. I might want it to be a little bit wider because I want it to hold more nuts or olives or something like that. So that's okay. It's up to you. It's your creation. It's your shape. Maybe you want it to have a wider mouth. Maybe you want it to have a narrower mouth. Maybe you want it to have a wider bottom. Totally up to you and your design. I want mine to be a little bit more open. I don't want it to be so upright. So I'm kind of pressing it down into the table so that it's getting more of a flat bottom. And then I'm pinching it and kind of pushing with my interior thumb outward so that it starts to open wider. Sorry if you hear my cat. He gets very talkative apparently whenever you turn the video camera on. So you can kind of see how that's starting to get wider. So I'm going to bounce back to my other one and start doing the same thing. So I'm going to keep pinching. You might notice that your hands get tired with all the pinching. So you can switch hands. If you're a perfectionist and you like a really smooth finished piece, it's going to take some work to get it level and finished. If you like things more organic and free-flowing, this is great. And kids are great about that. They love things that are free-form. They love things that are especially theirs and stylistic of their own. I think in the adult world, we get a little more stuck on it's got to be perfect. It's got to look like something you bought at the supermarket or the whatever big box store that we go to. But it doesn't have to. It can be all specifically yours. So I want to go for a little bit more of a leaf shape. Now that it's spring, I'm ready for green leaves and sunshiny days, 75 and sunny. And remember, you can go in and take your time. Smooth it all out, make it look pretty. And kind of push down a little, that'll help to start flatten out the bottom. It'll open it up a little bit. So you can kind of see like this one's a little bit wider than this one. So now I'm going to start pushing this one down and out. Okay, so now since I want them to be more leaf shaped, I'm going to take the ends and I'm going to start kind of pinching them outward into a leaf shape, and I'm going to smooth the edges. It's always hard to show this stuff with your hands getting your own way. You can probably hear one of my dogs tip-tapping upstairs. She's probably doing her regular perimeter check. Okay. So, okay, I've got kind of my leaf shape going. So I'm going to jump back to this guy. Start kind of flattening this one out at the bottom. And then I'm going to start pinching those sides. I'm kind of doing little crabbies. And then using these fingers to help pinch in on the sides so that it comes up and turns into a leaf shape. Okay, so got our little leaf shape pieces. Now we want to attach them. I'm going to flip this around so that you can kind of look down on them. Okay, so you can use a butter knife, or you can use a fork, but you really just want to rough up where you're going to attach them. It's called score and slipping. If you've ever laid tile, I always use this as an example, and I'm always amazed at how many people have never had to lay their own tile. So, but that's okay. To each their own. I definitely have to lay my own if I want some. Whenever you lay tile, you have to put thin set down on HardieBacker, and you put a trowel through it, and it like roughs up and puts a groove into the surface. And that's what we're doing with scoring and slipping. So we're roughing up the surface, and then I do have a bucket of water hiding over here that is out of view. So I'm just going to drip some of the water on here. Okay, and then I'm going to take the little ends of the leaves, and I'm going to bring them together. They're going to get a little sticky because they're wet. And I'm going to pinch them together. If you're working on like a surface, a canvas or something, that always helps sticks less. And if you get your fingers wet, you can kind of turn the end of it into kind of a little leaf tip. And then just kind of pinch these guys. Again, get your fingers just a little bit wet. If it starts to crack a little, be careful, because clay does have a memory. And a lot of times with clay, things that you fixate on, that you think are like imperfections, when they get the glaze on them, it's amazing how sometimes that can be the most beautiful little surprise. I've seen it happen many times where people fixate on something, and then when it comes out of the kiln, the little something they thought they didn't like ended up being something that turned out to be a really beautiful thing. So now I'm just doing all the like smoothing stuff. Once you get it to a place like this, and it's kind of flopping and moving around, you don't want to overwork it. Clay likes to get where it's going, and then it wants you to stop messing with it. So let me dry my hands. Okay. So you can kind of see how they're together. and I just have to let them set up a bit. Now, once they're not sticky from me putting all the water and stuff on them, if I want to carve something into it, like a leaf texture or uh, I don't know, a design, like sometimes kids like to put their own designs in it. You can use, for those of you who have the clay play survival kits, you can use like one of your trim tools. You can use a butter knife. I know some of you guys have like carving, like wood carving or um, printmaking sometimes has those like carving kits. Those are great for carving stuff. So you can put whatever little designs you want in there and have a lot of fun with it. So that'll get you going. That'll get you making 2 pinch pots. You don't have to do the leaf design. You could just do regular bowls or something that speaks to you and then attach them together and you can have little dishes for whenever we can have a party again. So I'll check in with you guys later. We will probably be doing a slab project next, so stay tuned.